Recording in progress.
Good evening. I'm going to give the people a couple seconds to join. I just started. I'll go ahead and open with the Lord's Prayer, and then I'll make some announcements, and then we'll dive in. عوند وشميانة قداش شماخ تأتي ملكوتاخ نهوي سويانخ إيكند وشمية أبرآ حولا لحمة سنكانا يومنا واشوق لان حوبين إكنا داب حنان شوقا لحيوين لا تعلن لنسيونا إلا بصا من بيشة مثول دي لاخي ملكوثة حي لو تشبحته العالم عالمين آمين. So a couple quick announcements for those of you who are studying with Dr. Errico this Saturday, the Aramaic language. This Saturday is the last session. For those of you who asked about how to join the class, unfortunately, these classes are very limited and very small. And this one actually went an extra, I think, 3 sessions over the budgeted time to cover all the aspects of Aramaic, the beginner's level. So if you are interested in getting the recordings, it might be tricky. So I'll let you talk with the foundation. If a lot of you are interested, we can see what we can do about that. And another announcement is the second Saturday, Dr. Eric will be doing the monthly series for the School of Light. Those are different than the Wednesday session, in that it's a registration and there is a fee that goes with it. We also offer scholarships, obviously, if you can't afford the minimum amount we ask for, because other people also contribute more, and that allows us to accommodate as many people as we can get into these sessions. And thank you for your contributions. It's what keeps us on the air, keeps us coming back, and supports our work and distributing the videos on YouTube. And if you haven't, some of you, I don't know if you track us because you attend live, you might not check your YouTube. Dr. Errico has been working on these short, like 4 to 6 minute videos that he's releasing Monday, Tuesday, and typically Thursday, Friday, about different topics, and some from his writings, and some are just ad hoc, him speaking. He's covering right now that the series that started last week is covering John 3:16 and how to understand the cross non-sacrificially. So if you haven't checked those out, they're available on YouTube, and they get released I think like 6 p.m. on the evening of Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And if you have any feedback and you have questions about them, comments, please feel free to do that on YouTube. And we're trying. There is one video of Dr. Errico on TikTok. We're working, Rebecca and I and Dr. Errico are working on getting more shorter videos and some editing to get them on TikTok as well. I'm going to do this. I'm going to stop the recording for a second and start again, because I don't want all this to, actually, we'll leave it in the, I'll edit it out if I wanted to. If you're new with us, we have the Q&A panel. I know some of you, for some reason, love to send us messages on chat. We often don't look at them. Sometimes we catch them. If you do have a question or a comment, your best place to put it, even if it's not a question, if just a comment, put it in the Q&A. That way we get to see it. With that said, and we allow time at the end to address those questions. Most of the time we can address all of them. So, welcome to Wednesday night. Today, I want to. I'm developing something, and I'm not ready to share it. So, you probably will get glimpses of it tonight. More of a system of how to um, practically start changing um, your being, your current who you are to uncover the what you are. And if you're new with us, that the who you are is the persona that we all take. And we get from the get-go, we start adopting new, we call them sometimes masks, new identities. And in without paying a lot of attention, those things become embedded as, and we identify with them, the child of, the parent of, the citizen of, the graduate of this school or that school, and we slowly kind of keep building these personas. And in the process, if you're not raised with a lot of spirituality in your life that accompanies that, you end up being totally identify with all these things, and you lose that beginning that you started with, your purity, your spirit, your soul. And last time I spoke, I spoke about how God is spirit. And we just even this week, we received a comment on YouTube, and if the person is attending, thank you for the comment about how we are God, but we're not really gods per se. And the person is arguing that we are gods. But in the text of the comment, the person said we are a part of God, and that's really how God works. That spirit, our essence is from God. All of us, we share the same essence, the same spirit, and collectively we make up the what we know as Allah or the Ithya Rabba, which is overseeing everything. And it's we are a component of it, and we represent it, and we co-create with each other, and this energy that covers all of us, this spirit that is with us all the time. And that's why Jesus used the term Awa, because he understood that that spirit has this almost parenthood feeling. And he's going back to Genesis. Let us create them, man and woman. Let us in our image and our likeness, because we take on the physical. The spirit is where we come. That creation that God does in Genesis is what gives us that the later that spirit that powers us, that we still, even scientifically, and we're getting kind of closer to understand it more and more, but it's the thing that science can't put their finger on it. We know that the heart pulses, we know the brain fires and grabs memories and records memories and analyzes things. We know how the physical works, that the thing that leaves us at the moment of death, and the thing that gets us to start acting in the beginning, start being when we are conceived, we still can't put our finger on what it is. And that's a lot of the origin of this spirituality is that. And before we had what we called Allah, and the Ithya Rabba, there were many gods acting in that capacity and overseeing different aspects. The Abraham, and then the early fathers of the what we call the monotheistic religion brought us all this. But even philosophically and so forth, we've been going through this for 4,000, 5,000 years of evolving, trying to even talk about what this is. It's still a mystery in many ways. But as I said, scientifically, we're starting to kind of grasp what it is, what connects us, what makes us be all the same. So anyway, but what my point is that I'm trying to develop a system of how to coexist with these masks, these things that you adopt, but not be that. Be, rediscovering what you are and then living from that source. And that I think Jesus was the master of it. And that's it kind of for some reason I kept being pulled Matthew chapter 7. So I'm going to start with Matthew chapter 7 and see how it goes. So this is, a continuation. This is the essence of Jesus. Matthew 5, 6, and 7 is, he does the what we call the Beatitudes. He does the Lord's Prayer. He does the Sermon on the Mount. And now he's talking about the practicality of existence as a follower of his teachings. And that's the key for the whole Bible is that he said, do my works. I should have marked it somewhere here, and it might be still in the same chapter, where he basically he said, if you just come and call me my Lord, basically honoring me as a teacher, but not doing what I'm teaching you, then you will not be a part of this movement. You will not be entering the kingdom. You will not be manifesting the kingdom of God or the kingdom of heaven. So he was very aware that there is that risk. And that risk was so obvious to him, and yet no matter what he did and how he worked with his apostles and disciples, soon after his death, the movement shifted from this, they know you by your works, and it lasted for a long time. But it's that you can tell the change started even in the beginning of the book of Acts. There was a lots and people getting basically an in and out, and people who joined but did not contribute were shunned or punished. So you can see that even with all his work, with all the effort he put into the apostles and disciples, as soon as he went away, because to them they always relied on him. He was the leader. As soon as he went away, a new system started developing, and by the time Paul comes into the movement and so forth, other concepts and other preachings were creeping in that were not part of Jesus's teachings. So that's why I constantly feel going back to Jesus, the teacher, is so important, and his humanity and his emphasis on his humanity to separate himself from the Allah, the Father. He related to him by saying, "I am the equivalent of the firstborn son." Meaning, I understand the Father so well, and I can pass that knowledge to you, but I am not special other than being able to bring those teachings to you. Now, you can be as special, and he constantly, in the Sermon on the Mount, they'll know you as the sons of God or the children of God, because he was a child of God. So he wasn't saying, I will be known as the child of God and you won't. You never will be. And I think his disciples wanted that, wanted him to lead them and show that, basically defeat the Romans and take over the temple and so forth. But he really tried very hard to kind of instill in them, how do you exist in their society that day. And that's what I'm trying to develop into our society today. But in his society, there were things that they had to do to exist, to thrive, to work with the existing rules. So, do I want to start in 7? Like, I'll jump just very quickly to chapter 8 of Matthew. After he finishes the Sermon on the Mount and giving the teachings, he immediately, when he came down from the mountain, so stepping away from the sermon, large crowds followed him, and behold, a leper came and worshipped him and said, My Lord, if you wish, you can cleanse me. So a leper in Galilee and a leper in the times of Moses is somebody who showed any kind of skin disease, any blemishes, any dryness, any sores. They basically they didn't know how to deal with that, and a lot of those diseases were deadly. So they basically shipped them out of the camp. They just okay out of town, and they created colonies and so forth. And, everybody who's not doing well went in out of town. So Jesus here, Jesus stretched out his hand and touched him. So Jesus was not afraid of whatever disease he had. And he said, I do wish it, be cleansed. And in that hour, his leprosy was cleansed. So a healing episode of Jesus. Jesus then said to him, look, see, as soon as he did that to him, what did the leper do? He went around, he said, look, why are you telling it to men? So the guy was running around going like, look, my leprosy is gone. I'm cleared. I'm cleared. Go first to show yourself to the priest and present an offering as Moses has commanded for a testimonial to them. So, this little episode shows you his understanding also of the laws of Moses. And Moses was a creator of society, a creator of a nation. So he had set a lot of laws. If you read Moses and the Torah in the first five books, a lot of rules, a lot of laws, because he was organizing 12 very difficult tribes into a nation. And then he took God and locked him in a box and put him in the tabernacle and then in the tent when he moved them around in a box. And then wherever they settled, he put them in a tent. That's where the whole idea of a temple, a central prayer place for Elohim was developed. Prior to that, there was no center anywhere. One of these patriarchs prayed. Sometimes they gathered a few rocks and created like an altar, and they burned offerings on them and stuff like that. But it wasn't one geographical location. Moses started the geographical location looking for the spot as he was searching for the promised land to build an actual temple. And of course, we know that evolved all the way to David being able to build the temple and the Temple of Solomon, and then later when they came from captivity, another temple. And Jesus was very aware, just like all the prophets. Once you lock God in a geographical location, once you create a center of religion, you lost Allah. You lost Ithya, you lost the nature of that spirit that governs all of us. So Jesus here creating or following the system, because he knew if this person, the person he just healed, did not follow the laws of Moses, he could not reintegrate in society. So Jesus had this very good way of creating your spiritual being and nurturing your spirit and your soul while making sure that you don't fall out with your society, with your community. And that's a skill that we all need, because and to me, that's probably my biggest struggle with my spirituality is how can I be the head of a company or the eldest son and the best friend and the husband and the different hats that I wear while my engine is run by my spirit, by my soul, and acting according to these teachings. So that's why in 7, Jesus goes, judge not that you may not be judged. Okay? If I threw away all of that, this whole Bible, if I took all of this and threw it away and said, live by that one law, and I challenge you to live by that one law, we judge so much. our brains judge so quickly, and before we were even thinking and aware, we make judgments. So when Jesus is telling these people who are following him, judge not, so you won't be judged. And what do we when we judge? What are we judging based on? We're not. Remember, he just finished how God lets his rain and his sunshine shine, or the rain falls on the good and the wicked. Yeah, so he set it up beautifully when he finished chapter 5 of Matthew. Of course, he wasn't speaking in chapters or writing in chapters. He was just speaking freely. And then he comes, so God does not judge. Think, just think about that. God, the model that Jesus is giving us does not judge us. What does Allah do? Loves us, gives us, protects us. Okay, so that's the source. And then we, as the children, and following that model in the image and likeness, and from the same spirit, the same soul, that's our role: to love one another, to support one another, to give one another, not to judge. So this just one thing. If you try, but then how do you do it? Especially if you're constantly bombarded by education that you take in as a belief system, and then based on that you immediately go into the different levels of judgment. So how do you get out of it? So he goes into a little bit. For with the same judgment that you judge, you will be judged, and with the same measure with which you measure, it will be measured to you. We're good at also measuring, right? I like them this much. I love them this much. From here to the moon. We measure things, right? But then how do we feel if those measurements were turned around, and people were saying, "Oh, I love you this much. I can tolerate you this much. I like people of your gender this much. I like people of your color skin this much," right? Or and think about all the judgment that comes. We see it on TV, we see it in the news, we see it in the paper, and in our homes. So our homes are very, very influential. And when you're growing up in a home that has judgment and has measurements and has biases and has pain in it and so forth, we take these things in and we don't even know that we're taking them in. So by the time you're moving, into elementary school or a preschool and so forth, you're already absorbing and you're already looking at people with the eyes of the people who are influencing you at home. And that this is at the absolute root of all of our problems, societally, internationally, politically, militarily. All these things are the things that, and then you get enough people who feel the same way as you do, and then you have a national identity all of a sudden, or you have a political identity, and you start relating because we all are judging with the same judgment. See, Jesus was very out, but then he was also warning that system turns on you. And that's why we see often people who follow these belief systems, all of a sudden they start, they have like an earthquake effect when that system turns on them. And you go like, wait, well, I thought we are on the same side. We are judging the same way. We're measuring the same way. We're moving in the same direction. And now you're telling me that I don't belong, or the belief system now is shifting on me for whatever reason, because it's not very rational. It's not love spirit. It's not truth powered. And there is a truth in this world that we can live by, and then there is everything else that we're told we should be living by, including rules like the one that Jesus guided the leper to obey. Okay, you want to reintegrate? you better go to the priest. Stop bouncing around saying, I'm healed, I'm healed, I'm healed. Go, because without that, you can't go back to your house. You can't go back to your family. You can't go, go back to your job. You're still an outsider. And Moses was very structural. He said a priest has to give you basically the seal of approval, and you have to get sacrifice some type of an animal at the temple, or at the, at whatever the center of religion in your village is. So you had to follow all these steps to reintegrate. So Jesus was aware that there are these societal rules, and then there are the rules like this: judge not. So how do you dismantle judgment from your head? How do you put a guard between you and judgment? Okay, and that's so why don't you see it? So here are some inclinations from Jesus. Why do you see the splinter which is in your brother's eye? Okay, because we are good at out, and do not feel the beam. This is Aramaic, the translation, which is in your own eye. So we often see this, the problems that we suffer from, we tend to deflect them and see them outside. And Jesus was aware of that. So he's going like, wait a minute. Okay, you're critiquing, judging, measuring. Okay, you're doing well, you're not doing so well, and so forth. You're on my team, you're not on my team, you don't qualify. Okay, this is the mindset that divide us. Okay, so judgment is very divisive. But it begins by you not looking in the mirror, not looking at yourself, not understanding your essence, and not giving yourself also a break when you make mistakes. So Jesus now turns it. Or how can you say to your brother, let me take out the splinter from your eye, and behold, there is a beam in your own eye? O hypocrites! So there is a hypocrisy that goes with judgment, because we don't like to be judged, and that's the warning that he's given us. So, O hypocrites, first take out the beam from your own eye, clean up your act. Okay, so we have to start cleaning up our act. Pretty soon we won't see anything wrong with the other people, because now we love them. Now we want to support them. Now we want to give them a hand. Now we want to raise the children with the same mindset. And that's why I keep saying, yeah, politicians and leaders and so forth, they come from us. They are us. There is no them anywhere. Okay, even if in other nations, they all come from us. So until we clean up our act and start raising a community, a society that is based on these teachings, we will continue to struggle. And sometimes you just need a tipping point. We don't have to change everybody, but if homes started sending kids to school without judgment, then we are well on our way in making a better society. When we send kids who are all inclusive, because they're born all inclusive, like God is, then we would be on our way for an all inclusive society. That those barriers, those mine and yours and so forth, they just start disappearing. Do not give holy things to the dogs. Do you see? And this is the humanity of Jesus. The way he speaks like an Eastern man. And do not throw your pearls before swine, for they might tread them with their feet and then turn and rend you. Okay, so now he's warning that, and I see that a lot today. When you want to when you get the truth, you want to. One of the things that you start feeling this energy of wanting to share it, right? And he's warning, dogs and swine are the people who are not enlightened. They're the people who are not on the same page, not at the same awareness that when you follow Jesus's teachings, you reach. Okay, so it's different to be discerning than being judgmental. Okay, so when you go to people who are angry, wanting to do something, are very judgmental, point their finger and so forth, and you go stand in front of them with the truth and try to convince them that this is the right way, you are at a very high. First, they're not going to honor your understanding. So he warns about that. And then they might trample you. They might tear you apart, tear you to pieces. Do we see that today? Do we see it all over the place? I'm not just saying in the United States. It's everywhere in the world where people are standing. And Jesus took a chance from his own life. There are moments where you might not be able to escape that your heart and your soul and your lack of fear and power of belief might put you in that situation here and there in your life. And Jesus had that moment when he walked by and he saw that the crowd gathering and holding stones in their hand, ready to stone that harlot that they captured and were passing judgment on her from the book of Moses. Okay, because she broke the law of Moses, and they had the absolute right, based on their belief system, to stone her to death. And he stepped in front of them. And he thought and thought and thought and drew in the sand and trying to go like, what am I going to say to them that would calm them down, that would disarm them, that would take that anger and turn it and save the life of that woman. So just this, I think this is why chapter 7 was nagging at me, is because it's so. Now take anything else that you're learning with us, take anything else that you're learning from Jesus, any of the good teachings that are out there, okay, and apply that to the same rules. First, you have to work on yourself. You have to remove those things, and you have to become really good at catching yourself from judging and measuring. And then be careful, because once you do, you become dangerous to yourself and to your society until you find a group of people who are like you, who are awakened, who are going back to their roots, to their essence, their spirit, and their spirituality. And then you can start having a movement. And we see that as well, because then if Jesus had 20 other people standing with him when he was trying to break that group and stop him from stoning that woman, he would have been at a much better place, and he probably could have even taught, which he did in that moment when he said, he who is without sin, let him cast the first stone. Well, he's sitting right next to her. I mean, that stone could have been at his head, and we would have had an end of Jesus and his ministry. So he took a big chance, and they all kind of like thought and thought and thought. It's like, okay. And that's where the idea actually of, and I know I'm going on a slight tangent, but it's related. In the idea of being a sinner comes from that idea that we all make mistakes, which is fine, totally as part of our existence, our living, right? So don't be too hard on yourself when you make mistakes. Religion tells you we are all sinners. We're born sinners. You're born of sin, and a child of iniquity, and they take verses and put that on you. Jesus was not focused on that, and he did not condemn them. He just said, "You make mistakes too. Drop the rock and go home." Okay, you know what's motivating you to do this specific, thing. So he understood his society and he knew how to disarm it. Sometimes, but he did take a chance. I guarantee you that in that moment when he sat down, he was not thinking, this is an easy thing. He put his life on the line, and he put his life. If you read the Bible carefully, and I said that, and I think a few weeks ago I did like a few of the stories where Jesus escaped from the angry crowds because he was teaching them the truth, and they were not ready for it, and they came after him. So take. I mean, there is some really practical stuff that we're talking about here tonight that can transform your journey, hopefully transform the way you're dealing with some of the situations that we're seeing around us, where you're feeling like, I want to do something about it, and I don't know what it is. Reflect. First, start looking at your own self, And are you judging? Are you judging? Are you being all inclusive? Are you loving? Are you loving your enemy, the people you're defining as the people on the other side? So start working with the Jesus system. It will start freeing you. And then you'll feel a complete different perspective of how to make the changes that you would love to see everywhere. So we are all getting along and loving one another, not going, the good people are beating the bad people or the bad people are beating the good people. That's not the point. We're all God's children. Okay. Ask and it shall be given to you. Seek and you shall find. Knock and it shall be open to you. We've heard this a million times. And the way I see this verse, because it's like, it sounds like, mumbo jumbo or it sounds good, but what does it mean? There is a part of you that, again, in the system of building, we tend to kind of march in one direction in our life because we just get be told what is success, what decisions you have to make. And if you make that decision, then obviously you'll make the next one based on that decision and so forth. So what Jesus is saying here, because it's in line with the rest of that, it's not an isolation. If you take it in isolation, it sounds like, well, whatever, ask and you shall receive. Uh, but what he's talking about here is now that you've done your work, think about all the alternatives, all the options, all what you're trying to actually achieve. Like you want to achieve peace in your community. I ask that question. How do I achieve peace in my community? With this new learning, with this new approach, with this new cleansing that I'm going through. Now you're thinking, okay, and then he's saying, if you start doing the work and you start, changing yourself, and coming from that space, you start asking and seeking, you will receive because you're now lined up, aligned with the energy, aligned with God's spirit, aligned with Allah, with the Awwa, and with the other believers who are pushing now with the same purity. And we don't all have to be the same. This is what's beautiful about the Beatitudes is Jesus takes, the peacemakers and the mourners and the meek, and he grabs everybody because he knows that we're different and we have different talents and different ways. So now if we're all aligning at some basic truths, no judgment, when we stand and somebody is doing something wrong and we all stand there, not judging them, judging, letting them know that their actions are harmful, that their actions are hurting people, they're hurting them, they're maybe hurting us. It's a total, but we love them, and we walk in with our arms open to hold them, not to punch them. That's the shift that's happening here. So ask, and it shall be given to you. Seek, and you shall find. Knock, it will be and shall be open to you. So doors that were closed, now you're coming at them, not threatening them. You're coming at them with peace and with love. You're coming at them with no judgment. The doors will open. People will listen. For whoever asks receives, and he who seeks finds, and to him who knocks, the door is opened. And this is all actions. See, Jesus was action, 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 action. He didn't say, okay, you understand all this stuff. Now let's go back up to the mountain and let's meditate for the rest of our lives. That was not Jesus. Jesus was, I'm coming down. We're going to continue to walk together. We're continuing to teach. We're continuing to challenge all the way to where he went and said, what you're doing in the temple is not right. You're turning it into a bad market, not even a good market. You're turning God's place to something totally different, and you're cheating people. And that's why he got angry. That's his humanity. If he was that, like we think, like the religious wants us to think that he was God, right? He would have not even touched the table. He would have just like burned the whole place down by his thought. But he knew his humanity. He got angry, and he didn't hurt anybody. I think somebody asked us like, did he whip people and hurt people? It's like, no, no, no. He just attacked their business. And he was making an example. This is bad business to have here. You're taking advantage of the poor. People who go on pilgrimage are typically very poor, very faithful, very loving, very believing, and they come and then they get cheated and they're innocent. And he wanted to protect that. How am I doing on time? We're 20 minutes. Or who is the man among you who, when his son, so now he's given us another example about the awa. See, he's trying to kind of like make that connection. It's like Allah loves you, okay? And that's why he used, this is exactly why he used the term father, because this is where he lays it out. Which man among you who, when his son asks him for bread, see, this is about ask and you shall receive, knock and the door will open, will hand him a stone? Or if he should ask him for fish, he will hand him a snake. If therefore you who err, you humans who make mistakes, know how to give good gifts to your sons, how much more will your Father in heaven give good things to those who ask him? Whatever you wish men to do for you, do likewise also for them, for this is the law and the prophets. We call this the golden rule, the different version of it, right? But that's the golden rule, right? So he sets it up as the awa takes care of us the way you who make mistakes would not give your child when your child asks for food would give them something that would harm them. That's the connection between Jesus and the Father. Why he called God the Father? It's right there. Right? Those two verses lay it out. And then about the relationship, see, he's coming from no judgment to treat people like you want to be treated. Instead of looking at them and trying to say, hey, you have something in your eye, look at your eye, and then treat them the same way you want to be treated. And with that, I'm going to close tonight. So thank you so much for allowing me to kind of expand on what, and I'm hoping to kind of continue to build on this into something that kind of hopefully help you totally with the rest of your interactions as you try to adopt the Jesus system into your life. And I have a few questions here. Thank you for taking your time to teach us here on Wednesday. My question is, you're very welcome. My question is, how important is it when we read scripture to learn how to pronounce words or names, especially in the Old Testament? I found so many words that are hard to pronounce. I don't think it's like the actual names of the people and so forth. It's not relevant to like what the message is that you're trying to grasp. And often that I find that the Lamsa translation fairly straightforward because he was a native speaker of Aramaic. That's what the language he grew up with. So when he did the translation to English, he brought that understanding, intrinsic understanding, versus a lot of the other translations. I get lost in the King James, and to be honest, I get lost in the Arabic Bible, the Arabic translation, because they try to come at it from the Arabic of Arabia, which is like Mecca and Medina, not the Aramean side of Arabic. And some of the terms actually, because I looked up some words, just like you're saying, even in Arabic for me, are kind of almost foreign. And then when I dug into them, because I didn't study them in school, I found them that they're originally coming from Aramaic, and Arabic had no alternative for them. So they ended up making the Arabic Bible almost in Aramaic. So it definitely, names of places, names of people, things like that. I do not pay a lot of attention to them, and you probably, if you've been listening to me long enough, I probably slaughtered a few of them along the way. So, but the essence of the teaching is really what you're after. So, good question, because I struggle with it, and sometimes I do pay a lot of now some of the things when you're looking from a cultural perspective, names of people, Magdal, now we call Mary Magdalene, which there is no such person, but Mary of Magdal, that town of Majdal is still in the Holy Land and Palestine. So there are a lot of names. The man who worked on the burial of Jesus, the guy from Ramtha. I had a friend, his last name was Ramthawi, so he's from Ramtha as well. Those things, if you're interested, like if you're visiting the Holy Land, or doing a pilgrimage somewhere in the Middle East and Turkey and so forth, those names might make more sense, and you'll probably relate to them more. But overall, like, you look at the genealogy and stuff like that, it's not important. Don't worry about it. Another question here. Thank you for thank you. You're very welcome. Would you be so kind as to share your perspective on Joshua's middle years, ages approximately 13 to 29, not detailed in the New Testament? Um, I accept that he grew up in his local region, but there are many who believe he traveled to India, etc., and was influenced by other spiritual philosophies and practices, works based on salvation, etc. So you're wanting my perspective, and my perspective is that, what we have of him does not really tell me that he traveled. And we know he traveled in his region. So between age 13 and 29, I think they're called, and maybe even his childhood, to be honest. So from his childhood until he declared himself, not much was known about him. Some stories came up, and they probably could be validated that, as a young child, he had to go to the temple with his family on a pilgrimage. Makes perfect sense to me. How he acted there, do we have proof that, that all the teachers came to him, and all the rabbis were listening to him? Possibly, I mean, he might have had, some really good insight, and I've seen young teenagers and so forth who actually can have the truth. We have it. I mean, we are born with it. So we were, it's not a stretch to think that he was that close to it from the beginning, that he could actually make people listen to him or argue very intelligently in a way, or bring up the teachings in a good way. But whether he went, he if you look, I mean, throughout the synoptic gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, he talks about farming and trees and thistle and figs and sheep and birds in the sky. He doesn't really talk about other things. He doesn't talk about reincarnation. He doesn't talk about where that would be coming, like from Buddhism or Hinduism. He does not touch on any of those. He's so grounded in his culture and his region, just like I mentioned with the leper. He knew the laws of the land, and so he grew up in that. He got saturated with that, and then he figured out a way to actually open it up for all of us, and simplified it in his teachings. And just like I said, we just went through like 12 verses. Yeah, about 12 verses in chapter 7, very, very small section of the Bible. And you can see how he is working with the psychology of the people. He is working with his culture. So I don't think he wandered away. I think he studied a lot. He paid close attention, and he paid attention to how his community also functioned. A lot of his examples of the camels coming into town, the peacemakers who sat around in the town square and solved problems. People went to them. They were the wise people, solved all kinds of problems before, and then he watched people go to court and come back totally broken or being jailed and so forth. He listened and he knew this, that society has a different system. It has a different vibe. And he brought in a completely different vibe and built on what the prophets were building, on what Abraham was building. So, but I don't think, everybody I've seen the pictures, I've seen the thoughts. And if people believe in that, that's totally, again, I do not condemn it. I do not speak against it. I don't say it didn't happen. I don't think it happened from my perspective, based on my studies. And if somebody does, but they actually go like, whatever you wish men to do for you, do likewise also to them, whether he grabbed it from India or from China or from Galilee, that's the truth. And if you live by that, all the other stuff is okay. Um, I hope that I answered you well. Please explain Luke 12:14. I could not find the translation in the Aramaic light of Mark and Luke. Okay, Luke 12:14. Let's go there. Okay, I'm in 12. Okay, and one of the men, this is the 13. Verse 13, so just see what's behind. And one of the men from the crowd said to him, Teacher, ask my brother to divide the inheritance with me. And Jesus said to him, Man, who appointed me a judge or a property divider over you? And he said to his disciples, Beware of all covetousness, because life does not depend on abundance of wealth. I hope, no, 40, not 14. Sorry, my bad. Therefore, you also be ready, for the Son of Man will come in the very hour which you do not expect. Okay, so before that, 39. But know this, that if the master of the house, so he was giving a parable here, knew at what watch the thief would come, he would have kept awake and not allowed his house to be plundered. Therefore, okay, so this, so what he's teaching here is that always, always behave based on the teachings that I'm giving you. Okay, this is what's important about this. Always, you know, a lot of religion, and I've seen this in other religions as well, and I've seen it in Christianity, we kind of march towards this death, and we can mess up along the way, and then all of a sudden we become religious. I've seen like scientists who spoke against God and monotheism and any kind of spirituality and so forth, and then as they got closer to death, they're like, "Ooh, what if?" Right? So what Jesus is talking about here is that always live by these teachings as soon as you are enlightened, because Jesus came here to take the sin of the world. Okay, so this is how this all aligns. If Jesus came to take the sin of the world, not sins, sin, what is it? It's ignorance. Okay, and I've talked about that before. So ignorance, and then to me, ignorance is anything you don't know. So if you're behaving, if you're taking, whatever, this pen and poking your eye, and then you blind yourself, is because nobody told you that a pen can blind you. Then you don't know. You're innocent. You just, nobody told you. And you can see children, if you hand them a pen or pencil, they're gonna put it in their mouth or in their eye. They're ignorant. They don't know that that's gonna hurt them. But once you warn them, or once they poke themselves and they go like, "Ooh, this, close call," then from that point on, they should not do that ever again. Jesus here is teaching that is that once you get this system, don't wait. Don't go like, oh, I know the key to entering heaven. The priest told me or the minister told me, and I still have a few more years to live. So I'll do this and I'll do this and I'll do that. I'll get it out of my system, and then I'll go by the rules and I'll be all kind of humble and not judgmental and loving and so forth. So his example here is like, as soon as you know the truth, you don't know when that moment is coming for you to depart, or for you to be called out, or for you to be judged by society or by the spiritual people who are around you, who are looking at you, going like, why are you doing all these bad things? We don't know the timing of things. We always think we have enough more time. Once you get it, live by it and live by it every day, whether you get it in your teens or 20s, 50s, 70s, it doesn't matter. But once you learn something good, don't wait for, a time to come. I tell people that when who are thinking about retirement. I tell people that who are thinking about having children. It's like there's always like this, plan. When do I do this? What do I teach them? Always give them the truth, always be ready, and always live your life in the moment authentically. Live it from that source, from your spiritual source, and be good all the time. Because we don't know how long we have and what circumstances are going to bring on us. So that's my translation, or my explanation of 1240. Sorry, I went to 14 earlier, but so always be ready. Now you can take this if you believe in the return of Jesus, that he was predicting, the revelation, and Jesus is going to come on a white horse and he's going to kill all the people who are bad, and yes, see, that's human thinking. That's not Jesus thinking. And this could be, and Dr. Errico is listening. He probably would back me with this. It's most likely a scribal note or something that was added on his lips. But even so, I think if you take it as if Jesus said it, ultimately the message is do not wait. If you think that Jesus is coming back at some point and he's going to create this, big hoopla and take the good people with him and destroy all the bad people, you don't know when that is. So you better do all the right things right now. So if you believe it that way, do it. If you believe it my way, which is live your life fully from the source that we're actually, drinking from right now together and eating from right now together, then you have nothing to worry about. Okay, I have a couple more. Oh, wow. We're okay at 3 minutes. If I don't address all of these, I'll definitely keep them with me for next time. This is what I use when I read scripture during the worship service. Learn how to pronounce hundreds of Bible names and words with our audio pronunciation tool and phonetic guide. It's at biblespeak.org. So thank you. Thanks for helping me with that with the first question. So if that's something that you're interested in, if there are people, and Dr. Errico is really good at pronouncing, and I do a good enough job, and I can do it from Aramaic and from the native languages. So, but again, the importance of it's your judgment. And finally, I'll do. Okay, the last comment came. I agree and appreciate your response of his early years. Thank you. And then regarding Jesus' message of judgment, it seems to me that we are not to judge the person, but are calling attention to the act being unacceptable. An example would be when we sit on a jury, we are judging the act and not the person. That's actually accurate. This holds the person accountable without condemnation. Your thoughts? Um, I agree with your say. I sat on juries and I looked at the human as a pure child of God. And twice both people were acquitted by the jury. and not because of me. So it was, we had to vote. So um, people make mistakes. Jesus knew that, and he said, "Don't you don't." So what's neat about Jesus, Christianity today, some of it tells us you have to believe in him and his blood and his sacrifice, and he died for your sins, and that's how your sins will be forgiven. But when Jesus was alive, he wasn't preaching any of that. I challenge anybody saying that, Jesus somewhere in the Sermon on the Mount said, "Hey, dudes, everybody, do whatever you want to do. As long as I die for your sins, you'll be fine." Never said that. Now, the judgment and our criminal system, you refer to the jury. He said, avoid getting to court to start with. But now we have laws that empower law enforcement to grab you and take you because you can violate anything. And it's interesting that a lot of the laws tend to change. A few years ago, if you were smoking marijuana or weed or whatever we want to call it, they could catch you and put you in jail. And a judge and jury would have to judge, make a decision on what to do with you. You're so awful. Today, that same law, we decided societally, it's not important, so we took it out in a lot of places, maybe not the federal government yet. Same thing with uh, prostitution. Same thing. So some countries now they regulate prostitution. It's an industry, and they have doctors and so forth, and rights and unions and so forth. And some places they still would arrest you, and they have specific actions and so again, our systems are they fall short of goodness. They fall short of completion. But they're there to also protect society of the things that at the time society feels are not good for us. Anyway, I think I went over. I don't know if I answered your question. Absolutely, the person, love them, do not condemn them. They need all the support they can get from you. The action itself, you're judging them based on a human law, not on God's law. So that's the hard part about being on a jury. So if any of you end up on a jury, best of luck. Just search inside you. How would I want to be treated if I was sitting on the other side? Would I want to be told, "Hey, don't do this again," or would I want to be spending, 5 years, 6 years in jail and having a record that probably would prevent me from getting a job or anything like that? Anyway, God bless you. Thank you for your support. Remember, we'll be sending a message soon about the first session in the second week of February with the title and all that stuff. In the meantime, go live by Jesus's teachings and love one another. And until next time, God bless you.